Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. The NES stands as the cornerstone of Nintendo's global identity. When it launched in the 1980s, the video game market had just suffered a massive crash, and North America consoles were seen as a passing fad, a toy category that had burned brightly but briefly. Companies collapsed almost overnight, retailers abandoned the industry, and consumers lost faith in the medium. Into this barren landscape stepped Nintendo, armed with a system that appeared strange to Western eyes. A boxy gray machine that promised stability, quality, and reliability in a market known for unpredictability. The NES revived consumer belief not only with polished games, but with rigorous quality control. The system inspired developers, re-energized publishers, and offered households unforgettable characters who would become pillars of global pop culture. This console didn't just succeed, it re-established trust in video games themselves. With this triumph came confidence, and with confidence came ambition. Nintendo understood that maintaining leadership meant continuously pushing forward with bold new ideas. That ambition would eventually lead to their greatest miscalculation: Super Nintendo Entertainment System, SNES. As the gaming industry matured, technological expectations shifted. The arrival of 16-bit systems introduced richer sounds, more vibrant colors, and more sophisticated gameplay mechanics. Nintendo answered this evolution with the SNES, a system that demonstrated deep refinement and technical artistry. The SNES era was a golden age for Nintendo. Many of its most cherished titles emerged during this period. Games that pushed the limits of storytelling, music composition, and visual expression. The company's dominance appeared unshakable. From marketing to product design, Nintendo's decisions seemed almost infallible. Its brand became synonymous with quality. Yet beneath this triumph lay a growing tension. The industry was showing signs of an impending shift toward three-dimensional gaming, optical discs, and more advanced processing power. Competitors, such as Sega, were aggressively experimenting, and new players like Sony were emerging with technological capabilities that threatened Nintendo's grasp on the market. Nintendo felt the pressure to take risks, to innovate quickly and boldly. That pressure would eventually lead to an untested gamble that fell disastrously short. Nintendo 64. The N64 marked Nintendo's leap into the world of 3D gaming, and although successful and beloved, it revealed cracks in the company's strategy. Nintendo's insistence on cartridges over CD-ROMs frustrated developers who sought more memory, lower production costs, and multimedia capabilities. Meanwhile, Sony's PlayStation emerged as a major force, offering developers a vast open ecosystem with more modern tools and more flexible production. While players adored classics on the N64, the system's commercial performance was noticeably weaker than Nintendo's previous consoles. Developers migrated in large numbers to Sony, shifting the balance of power in the industry. Nintendo was still a giant, but not invincible. This moment in the company's timeline is significant because it set the stage for Nintendo's most dangerous decision. The fear of falling behind, combined with mounting competition and rapidly advancing technology, pressured the company to take a leap that was neither wise nor timed correctly. The result would be the console that nearly ended everything. Nintendo GameCube. The GameCube was charming, powerful, and creatively designed. Yet it existed in the shadow of Sony's overwhelming success. With the PlayStation, Nintendo struggled to maintain third-party support and to appeal to the broader gaming audience that Sony had captured. Although the GameCube had a dedicated fanbase and a strong lineup of titles, it underperformed in the marketplace. The GameCube era convinced Nintendo that competing purely on hardware power was no longer a viable strategy. Instead, the company needed to differentiate itself through innovation, perhaps even unconventional innovation. This mindset was crucial because it was during this period that Nintendo began revisiting old experimental projects that had once been shelved. One such project would become a historic misfire. Nintendo was searching for something bold, something disruptive. Unfortunately, one of those attempts to be bold backfired so severely that it threatened Nintendo's survival. Nintendo DS. The DS represents the brilliance that arises when Nintendo's risk-taking succeeds. With its dual screens, touch interface, and broad target audience, the DS became one of the most successful handheld systems of all time. Its appeal extended far beyond traditional gamers, capturing the attention of children, adults, educators, and even senior citizens. This success was monumental for Nintendo, but also ironic. The DS arrived not long after one of Nintendo's biggest disasters, a disaster that drained resources, shattered internal morale, and set the company on a dangerous downward path. Without the DS's runaway success, that disaster may have spelled the end. But before the DS helped lift Nintendo back up, the company had to weather the storm of its most infamous console, the one that truly came closest to destroying Nintendo from within. Nintendo Wii, the Wii is another example of Nintendo's willingness to take unconventional paths. Motion controls made gaming accessible to millions who had never touched a controller before. The Wii's overwhelming success restored Nintendo's reputation and financial stability, allowing it to reassert itself as a dominant force. Yet the full story of the Wii cannot be told without understanding how much Nintendo had to lose. The company was coming off a disaster so significant that it forced leadership to reevaluate everything: their approach to innovation, their internal culture, their understanding of market trends, and their relationship with consumers. Nintendo's willingness to innovate fearlessly gave the world the Wii, but that same willingness had previously produced the console that nearly ended the company's reign: Nintendo Switch. The Switch represents the culmination of decades of experimentation, risk, and reinvention. By combining home console and handheld experiences, Nintendo created a hybrid platform that appealed to families, commuters, and core gamers alike. It cemented the company's comeback and proved that Nintendo's greatest strengths lie in unique ideas, not in matching competitors, spec for spec. But the Switch's success is even more impressive when viewed through the lens of what nearly happened years earlier. Had Nintendo's greatest failure hit even slightly harder, the company may never have had the resources or the global influence necessary to create the Switch in the first place. Before hybrid gaming, before Joy-Cons, before the convergence of handheld and home systems, there was a point in history when Nintendo was dangerously close to collapse. The console responsible for that near collapse was the Virtual Boy. Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy stands as the most infamous misstep in Nintendo's long history, a system that was marketed as a revolutionary leap into virtual reality, but delivered an experience that was disorienting, uncomfortable, underpowered, and deeply flawed. Released in 1995, the Virtual Boy was supposed to usher in the future. Instead, it brought Nintendo to its knees. The Virtual Boy was conceived as an innovative, stereoscopic 3D machine that would give players an immersive experience unlike anything on the market. But limitations quickly emerged. The hardware could not display full color, relying instead on harsh red and black graphics that strained the eyes. The device had to be placed on a tabletop stand, forcing players into an awkward, hunched posture. The visuals caused headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Long play sessions were impossible. Internally, the Virtual Boy crisis damaged morale, strained leadership relationships, delayed other projects, and threatened the public's confidence in Nintendo. Critics began questioning whether the company was losing touch with reality. Investors worried that Nintendo's best days were behind it. For a moment in time, the company's future appeared uncertain. Had the Nintendo 64 not launched as successfully as it did the following year, and had Pokémon not become a global phenomenon shortly afterward, Nintendo might not have survived the fallout caused by the Virtual Boy. The system remains a stark reminder that innovation without feasibility, clarity, or user comfort can be catastrophic, even for a market leader.